Well, hello everybody, and welcome to, I suppose, what we're calling a Catholic and two Protestants go to the movies. I am Jacob, and I am joined here by Matt Mink and Dr. Earl. Boys, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jacob. This is great. We're glad to be here.
Dr. Earl, you mentioned something, it was probably like 6 months ago now, like maybe over the summer, that you're like, we should cover The Chosen. We should do a faith-based thing. And I was like, I didn't really respond because I was like, dang it, that's a really good idea, but I don't have time. But I have time now. And I'm like, yeah, we should. Protestant number one.
Or maybe I'm number two. I don't know.
I don't know.
The last shall be first, right? So maybe I should. Sorry, I want to make sure I get it right. Okay, I'll do number two. Who wants to be first?
we all are podcasters of some sort. I wouldn't call myself a podcaster, but we're all in. Really, we all listen to the Deucecast, and one of us is on the Deucecast, and that would not be me.
Not me either.
Dr. Earl, talk about, how did this happen?
How did the Deucecast happen, or
well,
how did this
the
podcast?
Deucecast and this podcast, all of it, whatever you want.
Yeah, so the Deucecast is a podcast that's focused on movies. It developed, gosh, what was it, 11 years ago now? Originally, Michael and David and some, I guess some other folks, some folks from our friend group. I think Michael's brother-in-law at that time was on it. I was kind of just a guest coming in and out. They had a third co-host called Pinky, Brother Pinkerton, and but it's evolved over the years. I've become a co-host or a side host or whatever, and there's been a network developed throughout the country, I guess, so to speak. For a while we were part of the Retro Zap network, but since then we've sort of broken away, and we've started the Deucecord network, the Deuce chat. So Michael says 13 years. Yeah, it's probably bad to ask me all the detailed questions. So we have we have a Discord chat called the Deucecord, which is very robust, full of life, full of people and topics. We bring in people from Wyoming, Mississippi, anywhere,
all over the place.
Yeah, anywhere your local internet will go.
Matt, what about you? You've got a couple podcasts. I know you only like to mention one of them.
Yeah, well, I do have a couple. I mean, they're mostly just trash. I mean, let's just be honest. No, I have the Soundtrack of Life. It's a music podcast. I have it labeled out like that, and then the Man-Child Movie Night. Oh, well,
a Man-Child Movie Night.
But and we kind of started like the Deucecast, just to go. We're friends that just wanted an excuse to hang out, and so we don't take it seriously. We don't, or kind of sometimes, but we don't take ourselves seriously at all. And we just in it to have fun. So that's how I got here.
Yeah,
and I think Jacob, you mentioned The Chosen. Was it 2 weeks ago now? In the Deucecord, and I'm like, I'll throw my hat in that ring.
Yeah, so I host the Good Day for a Movie podcast, which is the YouTube channel that this is on. It's a very unused YouTube channel. We should be better about that, but we just we record our episodes and we put them out on audio only, because we don't care about growing at all.
That's the same with Soundtrack of Life. That's us,
yeah. Well, yours would be harder to put on YouTube because you've got all the copyrighted music.
Yep.
So the podcast feed stays under the radar so far.
That's it. So far.
Yeah, Good Day for a Movie podcast. I think it's been going for just over 3 years, maybe 4. I'm really bad.
It's a fun listen.
Track of time.
I enjoyed your May December review.
Interesting movie.
Yeah. Not as helpful for life as The Chosen, I don't think.
No, certainly not. But yeah, we review a different movie every single week on that one. We're currently in the throes of our Oscar coverage. We're doing 4 different Oscar movies. So we just recorded a couple hours ago our episode on Nimona, which is the animated one on Netflix.
With an N, right?
Yep. Before that, we did May December, like Dr. Earl mentioned, and next up is The Holdovers in a couple weeks. So I'm excited for that one because that's an actual good movie.
Good movie.
I still got to see.
Yeah, and I think I've been a listener to the Deucecast for 6-ish years, maybe a little bit more than that. Like I said, bad at keeping track of time. Maybe 7. I don't know. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got involved with these people. And yeah, like I said, I was on the Deucecast 6 months ago, and or maybe it was on an extra. The Deucecast extras of the TV wing of the Deucecast movie show. And Dr. Earl, it's been a while since you've been on that, but
Which one? The
the
Deucecast
extra.
Well, it's because y'all. Yeah, I just never did the Percy Jackson thing.
You'll be back for Bad Batch, though.
I will.
Bad Batch coverage coming
When
at
is
the
that?
end of February.
Ah,
I
okay.
believe.
Okay.
So yeah, but with that, we're not here to talk about ourselves. We are here to talk about The Chosen, which just had its theatrical release for the first 3 episodes of season 4. Before we get into The Chosen, though, I think maybe just brief kind of overview of like kind of where we stand in faith, and I'll lead us off. I was as the term is apt for me, cradle Catholic, born and raised Catholic, went to church on Sundays.
All right.
Pretty much every Sunday, did the whole Bible school type of stuff and confirmation and all that. In college, I never stopped believing. I never stopped going to church. I stopped going to church regularly. It would be like maybe once a month, maybe once every couple months, but the typical college thing. I like to say I stopped taking it seriously. And then my parents had watched The Chosen. And they kept saying it's the talk that we've had with Michael many times now. Michael may have chosen to watch this YouTube show, but he has not chosen to watch The
Chosen. We will convince him after this.
Yes, yeah.
Convince him.
But so it was a year and a half ago, probably end of 2022. I finally sat down. I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this thing. And I found myself crying. It was just before season 3 came. Yeah. It was probably 3 or 4 months before season 3. So I watched the first 2 seasons and I was like crying during like every episode. And I'm like, what is happening? And then finally, a couple weeks after I finished it, I was like, why am I taking this show so seriously, but not my actual faith? And so it kind of propelled me back into it, and haven't missed a Sunday mass since, and back into the confessional and all that sorts of Catholic jazz that we get to do.
Catholic jazz. I like it. That's great, dude. That's really actually awesome.
Thank you. Whoever wants to go next, feel free.
Earl, you want to go, or you want?
Sure. So I'm a Jesus follower. I sort of started believing, I guess, when I was an 11-year-old. It was my parents' faith, and then it became my faith. I did grow up in the South, so a lot of my church experience has been with the Baptist church, and I found out there are even Christians in the Baptist church. So that was kind of neat. There's even some in there, No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but I've had seasons where I've sort of like college. I was like, I'm going to be an intellectual. I'm going to be even really pretentious. And I found that emptiness of just sort of like you're talking about, Jacob, like just like this emptiness and growing emptiness when I was reading all these like intellectual English majory type stuff. And so had sort of a revitalization of my faith at that time, and then really grew in med school because you just really had to depend on God during that season of just like this information overload.
Actual doctor. He's an actual doctor.
Oh yeah. I'm an actual doctor and then just really got connected with missions and going out and doing things with, medicine sometimes is a good avenue for going forth, and people like it when you go to their country, and it opens doors for the gospel to be shared. So anyway, so here I am. I think I was in the middle of COVID when I think it was like I was very like isolated and kind of lonely, and when I started watching The Chosen, I was like, well, maybe this will, I thought, okay, I'll give it one episode. And I was like, oh, this isn't cheesy. This isn't stupid. This is like really meaningful. And then like you, Jacob, I started having like ridiculous emotional, like what is wrong with my eye? What is the water coming out of my eyes all of a sudden? So, I'm a man, I don't cry, but it was just leaking. It was something like
onions. Something.
But yeah, so that's me. And I'll turn it over. I think the Bible is something that's been really important to my faith. And so to see the stories pretty accurately portrayed, but we'll talk more about that. Not always. I mean, there's definitely some extra biblical stuff, but I'm going to turn it over to Matt and the other white Protestant, the other white meat.
Yeah, I am a worship pastor or worship leader or music minister or whatever you want to call it in local Baptist church here. I too, like Earl, was raised. I like to say I was in the pew 9 months before I was born.
Leaping for joy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And my parents' faith became my faith. I at the age of 16 placed my faith and trust in Jesus Christ and started seeing the world differently then. I mean, I'd grown up in church, had an understanding of all these things, had the knowledge and that stuff, but my life didn't change until then. Not that I was bad, whatever. It just from there on out. And I felt called into the ministry at 19.
Wow.
Didn't feel like pastoral ministry or anything like that. Of course, anything could happen. I'm not saying that, but I've never felt called to actually be a preacher. And I, for whatever reason, never thought that it would be music. I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was 14. I never thought at 19 that I would, because I was terrified to play really in front of many people or sing at all. And I got married at 20, and we kind of had church hurt is what we call it. The people in the church. And we had, I won't get into all that, but we had that for a few years, didn't go anywhere. Like you guys talking about, just kind of backsliding is what we call it down here in Mississippi. And
I like it. Sliding.
But when my wife got pregnant with our daughter, we both knew, like, hey, we got to get back in the church. We want our children raised in church the same that we were. And because my wife's testimony is very similar to mine. But so we got back in, found a church, went there. I was able to join the praise band as a lead guitar player, did that for 6 years. And then it was just a year and a half ago, God really moved in my life strongly and called me to be a music minister at a church that's literally a minute from my house. And so things, I was telling Jacob before you came on, Earl, things are, there's a lot of things going on right now, and they are incredible, really, truly, at our church.
Good. That's awesome, dude.
But I'll leave it there, and we can get into The Chosen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
it's a TV show podcast.
That's right. That's right. The only other thing, I think all three of us are involved in our respective churches, in our communities and whatnot too. It doesn't mean anything for this. I don't have a theology degree. I don't think you guys do either. So I say that to say, take everything that we say with a grain of salt, as well as with The Chosen. They put it out at the beginning as well. The Chosen is not a replacement for the Gospels. The Chosen is not a replacement for the Bible.
Thank you for saying that.
Another reason that drew me to this.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. There's a podcast I listen to. It's called Criteria. Dr. Earl, you would actually like it.
Okay.
They go through the Vatican film list, and they're very pretentious.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then that's up my alley.
But they reviewed the first season of The Chosen, and they called it a great tool in imaginative prayer. And so in that kind of prayer where you're trying to like put yourself maybe in the shoes of the disciples or of the people of that time, I think it's a really great tool for that. And it's also a really great tool to kind of realize, like, see the like realness of like what happened, because this all happened, and like maybe not the specific like things like that are extra biblical, but the Bible's true, and the Bible is like historically accurate, and there's lots of proofs out there that you can go find for a lot of that information. But so I suppose we can
I'm ready.
There you go. I was like, I should probably bring one up just in case.
Yeah.
Hey, is that the same one, Earl?
If I have to reference,
I don't know. Maybe. Do we have? Oh yeah, look, we're rocking the
ESV,
the Bro ESV. Yeah, with the.
Yep, that's it.
What do you got? What do you got?
We've got the NRSV CE, the Great Adventure Bible, put together by Jeff Cavins. This is the Bible that
that's got some
Father
extra
Mike
words.
Schmitz uses for the Bible in Your podcast. It's got a bunch of maps and stuff in there as well.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's a pretty good Bible.
It's a study Bible, you said, right?
Well, yes and no. There's not like places to write in it,
Okay.
but good annotations, and then they've got like breaks on like timeline.
That's
Let me
good.
see
I
if
know
I
that's
can
good.
find some of that. Yeah,
That's
so
very helpful.
kind
Like,
of mapping the genealogy of Jesus and
yeah.
whatnot, and
Oh, that's cool.
when
Hey,
big key events happen, they'll kind of cut in and.
hey, Jacob. One cool thing about this show is that they consult. I think it's like a Catholic priest,
Mhm.
a Protestant scholar, maybe a couple, and then they have a Jewish rabbi.
Mhm.
I was just looking about that Rabbi Sobel, and
Mhm.
so they get a lot of that Jewish aspects of
Mhm.
this show right. So I think that,
Yes.
or at least because you like I didn't like, and I don't mean to jump right in the episode, but
No,
like
you're good.
I didn't know like Shiva was like you just had to sit in somebody's house for 7 days.
I had
In
no
the
idea what
tradition,
Shiva was. I guess it's a
yeah.
time of mourning after a death of some sort.
It's like a wake sort of, but it's
Yeah.
longer.
Okay.
And sorry, I didn't mean to jump
No,
right
you're
ahead,
good.
but I think in the Jewish society, you would literally like stop work for 7 days and just apparently you're supposed to go to their house, and they're sitting there and they're like, well, wait a minute, John the Baptist was out in the wilderness. Let's get
And
on the road.
and I'm pretty sure you sit with the body for 7 days.
Yeah, and probably family,
Yeah,
the
family, and I think
yeah.
people kind of come through and pay their respects type of deal. Yeah, I mean,
That's
if
right.
you've
If you've
if
seen
you've
Shiva
never
Baby, there's a movie
yes.
called Shiva Baby. Probably not very holy, but you see the people coming in to like talk to the family. And
I'll say, don't be concerned about jumping wherever the Holy Spirit leads us in this conversation. That's where we're going to go.
Amen.
but I was just using that as an example of
Yeah.
like I really appreciate the fact that they try to be very accurate on the Jewish, and then they have all those consultants to help them. I will say sometimes I'm watching this show and I'm like, okay, I've never seen This Is Us, but I hear like every episode, every woman who watches it cries. I'm like,
Yeah.
are they just taking the gospel and putting This Is Us into it? And we're just, why am I crying all the time?
Right.
But anyway, okay, that's my sidebar.
Yeah, no, that's
but I love it. I love
accurate.
it. It's great. It's wonderful. It's a good thing. Good thing.
Your Trump's getting better.
Second Lamentations. I'm sorry. I don't know where I'm going with that.
But the Jewishness that they keep in this, I think, is important too, because it's something to remember that Jesus was Jewish, and that played a big part. And the Old Testament is not null and void. There's still aspects that are still an everlasting covenant, and there's aspects that have fallen away. But you got to figure out why those aspects were there and what was the necessity for Christ.
I've been listening to, with the show, but I've listened to. Have you heard of Pastor Robbie Gallaty?
Yep.
Okay. So I listened to his podcast. It's called The Forgotten Jesus, and he's got a book. I'm starting to read the book, but he's talking about you can't fully understand the New Testament if you don't like what Jesus came and did. If you don't understand the Old Testament, because the Old Testament, as what we call it, was the only Bible that these folks had at that time.
Very true. Yeah.
So I mean, that was like you were saying, Jacob. Like Jesus was a Jewish man. He lived according to Jewish laws that they had. He never broke any of the laws. He lived according to them. He read the scriptures, knew the Torah. I mean, all of it. So, I mean, I like what you said. It's not null and void. It's still, he came to fulfill it, not to destroy it.
Yep.
As he said.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of hop into this thing, I suppose. Episode 1, we don't have episode titles yet. I have not been able to find them, at least. So at season 4, episode 1, I was very excited that we got this. We start out with John the Baptist's backstory. John the Baptist is one of my, I'll say, favorite saints for the Catholic watchers out there, and listeners, and one of my favorite Bible figures. He just has such a fire for Jesus, and it's like, it's awesome. And like, sometimes you're like, this dude's crazy, but like in a good way.
Creepy John.
Creepy John. Yeah, what they call him in the first season.
Yeah.
Or Peter calls him that, right? Or Simon.
Yep. The Elizabeth and Zechariah story, I think, is so great, and I was very excited that we got to see it. Because when we started out, and we're not going in chronological order. here for The Chosen. That's not how they're presenting the story. So I was like, bummer, we missed the John the Baptist stuff. We still miss Jesus' baptism. Maybe we'll get that later, but yeah. So
I think they do that. I think one thing to know if you're not a watcher of the show, Michael, is that they do start. They do this weird thing where they'll start somewhere in the Old Testament sometimes, or maybe like
cold
this
open.
one. Yeah, it's a cold open, but it's not necessarily. Sometimes it's a. It's usually a biblical story, but it's just not. It's not in the Gospels per se.
Right.
Well, I shouldn't say that. This one was in the Gospels, but
yeah. But like episode 2, we start with King David and losing of his first child, and so I'm always one. I do not have the Bible memorized, so I'm like, okay, what story is this, and how is it going to like tie into like what we're going to see in this episode? So I think that's fun when they do go back to the Old Testament stuff, because
it took me a minute on episode 2.
Yep.
Was it 2 or 3? 2. Anyway, let's not jump ahead, but
maybe it is 3. Yeah,
with David.
It is 3 with David and with Sheba.
It took me a moment. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who's this?
So the first thing that stuck out to me with the whole Elizabeth and Zechariah stuff is they say in the Bible she was old and she was past the point of having kids.
Yeah.
I never really pictured like elderly grandma old. And so to see that, I was like
Maggie Smith to me too.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, this is like she's old. She shouldn't be able to have a kid, and so like this is really miraculous. But yeah,
let's see what the Bible says. Luke 1. I think it does say they were. All it says is they were past childbearing years, right?
I'm there. Is that?
I'm an old man and my wife is advanced in years. That's verse 18. So Luke 1. So, I mean, he's an old man, but a lot of old men in that culture married a little bit younger sometimes. So I don't know, but she was obviously past birthing, but you're right, Jacob. I always pictured her like 50 because aren't they cousins or no, it just says relative.
Well, in mine, it says cousins.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not disputing it.
It doesn't necessarily say how close of cousins.
I've heard cousins, and it may be just the translation there. Mine says relative as well, but if it's the ESV, then it's the same. It's from what I gathered, it's a relative of some sort, obviously.
Yeah. I
mean, I guess exactly what it is not the important part.
Nah, and I had cousins. Because my family was like really, long story, but like I had cousins that were like 15 or 20 years older than me. I mean, it's possible, because you have, younger sibling is your mom, and then her older sibling has kids. Anyway,
right? Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it could be like a third or fourth cousin too.
Well, that too. Yeah, it's relative.
I can't remember. It was something I was reading for our Bible study in Luke where family was very, or maybe it was a daily gospel thing. Family was so important and so much tighter, and like you didn't really leave your family back in these days. And so like if one person did something, like it brought the whole family down if it was a bad thing. And so like the families were very large and kind of your community.
I did like that beginning where like you see people walking on a road and there's like, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And then I realized like she had to travel as a single woman, betrothed woman with family members, but they were also kind of like, she's gotten herself pregnant. This is a little bit shameful for us, but we're going to go have her talk to Elizabeth. So, I mean, it was kind of interesting to see there. We're kind of like, what's going on with Mary? There's been obviously something that's happened,
right. Yeah. If you get in I pulled out the old King James version here. It says cousin.
Okay.
Cousin. Okay.
There we go.
From the Vulgate. Thank you.
Also, I think at the end of the episode 1 here, we get Zechariah's like full prophecy. That was very cool to see.
Yes. That was awesome. That was really
cool. Yes, it was.
I like that he was deaf, or not deaf, but he was mute at the door, and she's
yeah.
like, Mary's like, "What's going on?" And
It was like, I'll explain that later.
yeah, that was funny, and like, it's actually been kind of a blessing.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, that got a good chuckle out of the.
But they did that. It was kind of weird to see like that older lady with like a a baby bump, and it was like, oh yeah, I guess that would be the weird sort of thing. But great scene, good scene.
Production design and costumes are always just so good in the show, and they just keep improving too.
And see, I like the little behind the scenes thing that they did before the movie started.
Yeah, with the drone shots going over.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty neat because it kind of put because when I watched it, I'm like, I don't see the background stuff. I'm the kind that I don't notice little details like it. Like you sell me on something, a good story, I'm sucked in and I can believe it. But it was pretty cool seeing all that. And like y'all were talking about earlier, I forgot to say it, but I literally, there's only been, there's 20, counting these 27 episodes. I've probably not wept on maybe 4 of them, 3 of them. And it's always over the little things. There's little things in there, and I weep.
I'll tell you what got it for me in those first couple seasons was anytime Jesus said, "Follow me," or like anytime he called one of the, I don't know why, but it was just like, I'm like, okay, I will.
There's 2 instances in these, and I think they both come from episode 3 for me.
Okay. For this round of 3.
Yes, yeah, and when we get there, I'll talk about them.
Yeah. I should have said off the top. Episodes 1 through 3 are still in theaters for another week right now.
We didn't say spoiler, right?
Oh, we did not say spoilers. I'm sorry, and I said I was going to say it before the show. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! For
we are spoiling the heck out of this thing.
There's a really, really, really big thing that happens at the end of episode 3.
A big twist.
We will wait to talk about that until the end. But
we'll even do another spoiler at that time if people want to step away.
If I remember, if we remember,
we won't. We won't.
Again, the majority of this stuff is in here, so it's really it's not spoiled. I mean, if you read it.
Episodes 1 through 3 still in theaters until the 14th, and then 4 through 6 are in theaters the 15th through the 28th, and 7 and 8 will be in theaters starting the 29th. They don't have an end date on that one yet. Yeah, so we kind of move along in the episode here to
Salome.
Yes, and Herod, and we get to see Joanna again. Interesting stuff here. I was very confused when we got the dancing, and I was like, "What is this?" And then I was like,
"Oh, cold open of 2, the second part."
Oh, was it?
I think so.
No, it's in the first one.
I think it's
you're right. You're right.
It's right after the credits.
That's all John the Baptist. It's the whole John the Baptist arc for this one. Yeah.
We should say we've all only seen this once in the theater over the weekend, so we're not very fresh on it. 3.5 hours is a long time to be able to cut out of your schedule to go see it more than once.
No.
But yeah, so the dancing stuff's happening. I'm like, what is this going to be about? And I was like, oh, this is how John the Baptist loses his head.
Yeah.
It clicked with me. It didn't click with me. I kept thinking, why are we, what is this? I'm thinking, what's with the ballet gymnastics stuff? And then when he put the chair down and then she finished the little flip and he's like, all right, look, you've got him now. When you look, and I'm like, oh, it clicked then. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's how the head on the silver platter. I was like, that's where we're going. And then
and I'm glad they contained all this in this episode. Like, I'm glad it didn't stretch out. I mean, I know he's been in jail last season, but I think this was great to have it all sort of like, this is the John the Baptist episode,
And I mean, it sets up for I think they said 2 seasons left after this season. It makes sense that this storyline needs to end because the pathway has been straightened. Yes. And I think we can just kind of get into some of that stuff too, with John the Baptist ends up losing his head. We luckily don't see it. I was a little worried there for a second.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't think I was thinking I assumed Chosen would pull the punch on that. They're not going to go full Game of Thrones
which is my thoughts. Like, what are we going to get once we get to the crucifixion? Because I mean, it's coming. They've said it's coming. So I mean, is it going to be full on
Gibson
Passion of the
Christ? Yeah.
Or is it going to be scaled back? I mean, I assume it'll probably be scaled back some, but I don't know. That stuff is hard to do to be able to show. I mean, and even then, I don't know that the Passion of the Christ even really got to what actually took place. I still think it was way worse.
I think I'm fine with them not scaling it back for that, because it is such a. I mean, it's the
pivotal
basis of our
story.
faith. It's biblical.
Exactly.
It's the story, and it's also it.
I think they'll go there. I think they'll. It may not go quite to the level of Mel Gibson, but I think. So this is going to be my hot take on the Salome dance. I thought it was too. So I've always had in my head, and this is maybe very strange what I'm about to tell you. Somebody sent out the Herod's timeline, like family line lineage. It is like super messed up. Like everybody's marrying everybody else. So I've always thought this dance was like super sexual, maybe like a belly dance. Now I realize Chosen can't do that.
Right.
They got to pull the punch a little bit, but I've always assumed almost like he's like, I will give you anything, darling. Like kind of almost like. This is her sort of, a
seduction
type dance. Yeah. So, and this is fine. I mean, I didn't mind it, but it did seem very modern. Like it seemed like some modern, but whatever. It's fine.
I'm with you there. I thought about it that way. Because I felt like it was, because that, like you were talking about the whole messed up thing, like, Herodias was his brother's wife. Isn't that but he's it's a whole.
But she's also from the line of Herod the Great. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like if you looked at I was looking at this family line. I was like, wait a minute. I think she's like a cousin of Philip too. And I don't know. It was very bizarre. It was. But I thought the actress who played Herodias was very good. Like she was very like scheming, and like you would expect her to be. And I thought the Herod was good too. I thought he seemed
I know him from somewhere, and I couldn't figure it out.
He looked very familiar.
Yeah, I was thinking he might have been somebody from like Apocalypto, like one of the Mayan guys, but I don't know that that's where I knew him from.
Interesting.
Yeah,
let me see what I can find on.
He had a very familiar face. I've seen him somewhere before because that's what I was like. I was like, I know this Herod, and I've seen him before, but he to me, like, and I can't remember. I've gone back and we're rewatching. We're kind of midway through season 2, and I was trying to remember how Joanna comes in. Claudia is Pilate's wife. How she came in, but she was Go ahead. If you have.
Well, in Luke, it mentions her twice, and it says, because I just watched a thing on somebody talking about who is she. She's the wife of Chusa, who's the household manager for Herod.
Mm-hmm.
So her husband would have been, although I wish they'd shown him being more of a household manager. He just seemed like sort of another royal guy, but I think he would have been more like sort of like, sort of like a, I don't know, caterer or but more than that, what would you call him?
Like a
party planner, but for the royals. I don't know, some kind of high court royal official, but his job was to like manage the household. And
so we get her in earlier episodes of The Chosen. I just rewatched it as well with my girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
She hadn't seen it. So Joanna comes in as after the Sermon on the Mount, and
she came to it,
gives some donations and says, I've been hearing John's preaching. He's in the dungeon at Herod's court or whatever. And Andrew goes with her. Then
I remembered that, but I couldn't remember how like she tied in with it. I remembered her, and I knew she was she was affiliated with John the Baptist.
Yeah,
I didn't remember how she got started there.
So the guy who plays Herod, his name is Paul Ben Victor. He was in 17 episodes of The Wire.
Okay, maybe
So
that's.
I don't know
Yeah,
if
he
you've seen
looks
The
like
Wire.
he looks like a Wire guy.
He's got a pretty 186 credits to his name on IMDb. So
Cool.
he's been around, character actor a bit.
Cool.
Paul
So
Ben Victor.
the episode ends. We'll touch on some of the other stuff with the disciples, but the episode ends with with John the Baptist getting killed and Joanna going to Capernaum to tell Andrew. And I think that scene was very well done.
Yeah,
I think
I loved her in the carriage at night,
Mhm,
kind of traveling, and yeah, that was cool.
the acting, I think, has been improving. I don't think it was ever necessarily bad, but I think this season it's stepped up.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just what we got from Andrew there's some of the later episodes with Simon Peter and Matthew, and just some really, really good acting. Maybe not like full on prestige level, but some good stuff for
I think they're getting some more
unknowns
to dig into, right?
Yep.
Some more. I think so. Remember one thing from the Gospels is that Andrew had been a
follower of John the Baptist.
Follower of John the Baptist, and then he's the one after Jesus, like in John, was like, they were like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "Come and see," and then they go find Peter, and then all the things. But so that's why he's so affected, even more so than some of the other disciples. Which I've always like, okay, what was the connection? Why did he go visit him in prison? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, because he was one of the disciples.
And the other one in the
that's
show,
for the listeners. That's just the name.
Yes, yep. The other one in the show that followed was Philip, who is recast this year.
Yeah.
I like that other guy.
Yeah,
I know. I liked him because his real name was Yoshi.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What was the? Well, I don't know if we want to get into that. There's some backstory, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I saw in the previews that he was in a different Angel Studios production.
Okay.
Movie coming out, so I think it was Angel Studios.
It may have been a conflict of schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a role that was going to pay more. I mean,
yeah, I think it was more of a leading role.
Actors got to eat. They got to eat.
Yep. So we spent some time in Capernaum as well with the disciples. It's always interesting to see what the disciples are doing and what they have the disciples doing while Jesus isn't around. We've got the olive oil business, the christening oil. What do they call it? Anointing oil. There we go. That's what it's called.
Because they could never get it to taste very good, so they sell it for the anointing oil.
Yeah.
That was from season 3, right? When they started that. Zebedee.
I like that guy. I like that guy.
He's a good actor and he's just a fun character. It's fun to like different threads that they kind of pull on. That's maybe just like not made a very big point in the Bible. Like the women supported his ministry is like I think the one line about it, and they're like, okay, like this is a good subplot.
Right.
Have like shine some more light on the women that followed Jesus.
And I think too, because they're selling to the temple, like, there's that later passage about, they knew John, so they let him, and then I'm going way to the end of the story. But when Jesus is taken for his trial, they're like, oh yeah, we know John, let him in, and John goes and gets Peter. But it's, they're trying to make that connection that, oh yeah, that's the family that's been selling us the oil, Although I guess that would have been down in Jerusalem, wouldn't it? Well, anyway.
But one of the guys that buys the oil is headed to Jerusalem.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yusuf.
Yeah.
They're doing their research. They're not just throwing it together. I mean, even the extra biblical stuff is woven in a way to where it's not sacrilege, in my opinion. It's you're not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It doesn't take anything different from here. It's just adding to make a more dramatic story. Because I mean, if you technically just went by the what's written on in the scripture as a script, you would be done in about 10 minutes. Truthfully, especially if you're reading Mark, it's pretty straight to the point.
Yep. But then, at the end of John, he talks about how if everything was written that Jesus has done when he was on this earth,
that's right,
there wouldn't be enough pages in the world. So
Preach
it
it,
makes
brother.
sense that something else has happened and something goes on when we're not.
Well, they had
with them
lives, yeah.
anymore.
You know, everything wasn't written down. You know, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
I'm okay with that stuff, as long as the stuff that is in Scripture has not been
Stays
tampered with,
right,
and
right.
that is another reason
Mhm.
I really liked this show. It has not
Mhm.
Yeah.
deviated. The stuff that needs to be there is there.
Yep. Yeah, and it's they've just continued to do such a good job. Every season, every episode, I'm like, who knows? This could be the one that they go off book a little bit just to
Mhm.
like make it more dramatic or something like that. And they've stuck to it. It's been very impressive. Speaking of the disciples having lives, Thomas, this is not in the Bible, I believe. It's never mentioned that he was courting a woman or anything like that. But Thomas and Rama's back. In the beginning of this episode, she returns from the conversations with her father, and they're kind of figuring out some loopholes for them to get married. Any kind of thoughts on that? It was interesting to see, to go back to the Jewishness part, how
Yeah.
these
The
marriages were
courtship.
set up
Mhm.
and
The courtship concept
and they
and
needed a chaperone, and
chaperones for
some of that stuff
being.
was fun.
Very 19 Kids and Counting. If you ever watched that show, my wife
Yeah,
used to make
yeah,
me
yeah.
watch that show. But yeah, I mean,
And that's still in the Middle East today, really. You can't
yeah.
do.
I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've got an 8-year-old daughter. It doesn't sound like a bad idea to me.
No.
For in a few more years, when when there's little boys that start coming to my door wanting to date my
Yeah.
daughter. But I think
And those
And
little hormone
endowment would
monsters
help
go up.
as well, I'm assuming.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I mean, that with stuff like this, and then listening to that podcast I was talking about earlier, the Robbie
Yeah.
Gallaty, the Forgotten Jesus, like I've gotten a real interest in actual Jewish history now
Mhm.
and just culture and stuff like that. So I'm really, and my wife as well, we're really kind of wanting to take a deep dive in just to learning about this stuff, just for our own curiosity, if nothing else. And
Yeah. That's
it's,
neat.
I like how they've, you mentioned Shiva earlier, Earl,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how they're incorporating, because that was part of their lives. And so they're incorporating it to, like, they've got just to see, hey, this was the life of these people that Jesus chose to follow him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it. And even if, like you're talking about, it's some, the Thomas and Rama situation is a relationship is not in the Bible. There's very little written about Thomas.
Right.
And so I feel like something about one of the disciples that's a little bit lesser known or lesser written about, you could probably get more away with having with a backstory like that.
Well, and I'll talk when we get to episode 3. I'll talk about why I think they're going this route. You guys probably figured it out too, but we'll get to that.
Those were some of my thoughts that I was hinting at earlier.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing is that isn't she? And I didn't go back and watch the thing with her father. Now, is she a Samaritan or
No,
No.
she's they're both Jewish. Her and her father.
Okay.
Her father
Jewish.
runs the vineyard because they were the ones at the wedding at Cana.
Okay.
They brought the wine. Thomas was kind of the
helper. He was just kind of helping out, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Like
he's
caterer.
not the. I think they were pretty much in charge of the wine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I think he was like Rama's father's like head employee / main like.
Yeah, because they
main
brought that big
employee.
card up in the first season to but there was something about the reason they could do this thing where the rabbi could approve the wedding.
The loophole.
Was it because he was not I thought it was because he was not a believer, like he was not a Jewish follower or something.
I believe it's because he's not a believer in Jesus, and he's kind of. But I think it's the.
I know he's not a believer in Jesus for sure.
Yes, or I think that's what they were setting it up as, is that Rama is because she's following Jesus and he's against that, and I think that's where they're going.
I think
that's
if I'm not mistaken. I think what they were saying was he said that he's not a believer, and I think that's he's not a believer in him. Otherwise, he would be okay with them following him, obviously. But what I think they made a mention of, they were getting at, it was essentially by him letting her go, he is kind of taking his almost, I don't want to say like giving up his fatherly duties, but kind of in a way is how I took it, like some of his rights, I suppose, to basically tell her what she can and can't do, is how I felt it.
Because normally the family would approve the wedding or whatever, right? They would have to.
The father, there would be the fathers and the families would meet, and there would be
negotiate,
change price and all that stuff.
Change sandals or something.
Yeah.
Change slippers. I don't know. There's something
something
in Ruth about that. Anyway.
The last thing
he makes mention of that about Ruth and Boaz. Thomas does. He said, "We're not doing it that way." No.
Oh yeah, she's like, well, she snuck in. Yeah.
He was like, yeah, but she was trying to kill somebody. Something like that. The last kind of bit we get in episode 1, storyline wise, is Judas and Simon Z are doing laundry, and I've been very interested to see how they are
that was an
handling
conversation. Yeah,
Judas's characterization and how they're setting him up to betray.
When we get there, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
because you like him.
Yeah,
and I was talking to a guy at church the other night about this, and I'm like, you read the Bible and you hear that about Judas, and of course it's written from Matthew's perspective and John's perspective, and Mark was, I've always heard it could be like basically dictation of like Peter's story version of what took place. But they're obviously going to claim obviously that he was the enemy, but you don't get a lot of Judas. But at some point in time, they were friends. They lived together, they ate together, they walked together. Like, and in the show, you like Judas so far. You can see certain things coming out like he's just not getting it. And that's that scene with him and Simon Z, like it hit me because he's like, still dirty, Judas.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
By the way, that water was pretty nasty.
Yes, it was.
Those rocks, I was like, those are not like the right rocks to be hitting on, because I was like, more dust was. I was like,
that was some good old Texas pond water.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they got all the things right, but I was like, I don't know if with that.
Yeah.
That kind of sandstone was just. Anyway, but there was something you can tell he's like a very practical, worldly guy, and he's like, if Jesus would just do it this way, wasn't there something about money making he was trying to like?
When Z tells him, he said, "You're very smart, but you're not wise."
Yeah.
And I think Judas was trying to say that, like, I think what the point he was bringing up was if they would have passed around a donation bucket or whatever at the feeding of the 5,000.
That's what it was.
Whatever.
We would have had all this money. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this juxtaposition here of Simon Z and Judas, because I don't think it's in the Bible, but I think kind of scholars have thought that Judas betrayed. It could have been because he was trying to push Jesus into starting this revolution. And I think he was very into the idea of military revolution. Yes. And so to put him up with Simon Z, who was this zealot and who was trying to plot the downfall of Rome. And it seems like
now.
Simon Z has had that change and is no longer thinking that this is going to be a military revolution, but that it's something different, and Judas isn't there.
That's good.
And Z, when you saying that, Z seems to be the only one, kind of the only one who really is starting to grasp it a little bit, because even, I mean, and it may show it later on, but I know as far as through scripture, even there, nearly up until the end, even Peter was like, "Hey, yeah, when we're going to go take over Rome, we want to go to kick them out," and it's
it's true. It's true.
Yeah. I think that's kind of about it for this episode, unless anybody else has anything else.
Well, I guess Jesus found out about
the final scene.
Yeah. And you see his grief kind of, aren't they alternating it with like, I loved how they cut the scenes. Like here he is as a baby and Zechariah's giving the blessing, and then you're seeing him go into the chopping block, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then they're cutting back to, I think, Jesus.
He rips the shirt.
Yeah, he's by the fire.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's by the fire, and then the guy walks up, and it's all kind of ties it up together. But he,
Who was it who gave him the news? Was it
It was that Abner guy, the one that came and asked him. There was the two guys. I guess it was season 3, maybe.
Okay.
The two guys come. It's the situation where they say,
yes.
John wants to know, are you the one, or do we
yeah,
need to look for
yeah.
somebody else? He was one of those. There was two guys.
Okay. That's actually in scriptural too, because his disciples come and tell Jesus in Capernaum. So I believe.
Well, the scene there, and I thought we talked about it after we watched. I went to see it with my pastor and my wife, several folks from church.
That's cool.
And we talked about it afterward. It was the significance of him looking up and seeing the lamb.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, because that was behold the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. And that and his final words, the guy was like, "Are those your final words?" You wouldn't get it. Yeah. It seems like something snarky that he would have said.
Yeah, because John was talking about he's headed for a great feast.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah,
never been to a wedding feast.
Yep. But I'm headed to a great one, I hear. Yeah. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like, I've never been to a wedding feast. I'm trying to find it in Matthew. Isn't it Matthew where we find that? Or is it in the 3 synoptic?
The death of John the Baptist.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to spend a long time on it. Here it is.
I found it, Matthew 14.
Yeah.
But I don't know what...
is that where they tell Jesus, though? No, because there's 5,000, 4,000. Anyway, I've lost where they come up to him and tell him.
Yeah.
Oh, well. It's okay. It's all right.
It says at the end of that one in 14:12,
Matthew 14.
His disciples came and took the body and buried it, and they went and told Jesus.
Oh, it is right there. Yeah. Okay.
And it says later in 13, now when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a desolate place by himself.
Yeah. And that's when they start coming back around them.
And that's another thing you were talking about. They seem to go out of, not in sequential order, or at least what the order of is in Scripture. That podcast I was talking, I hate to keep talking about it, but they talk about the Jewish mind doesn't. They say that they're not. It's not like Western thinkers. It's
not linear, right?
It doesn't have to be linear. Mm-hmm. They just need to know. They just want to know what happened. It doesn't matter that if Peter walked on the water a year before this, and in the Bible that one comes after the other. They're not worried about that. So I kind of think that's part of that. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. And so at the end of last year and this year was kind of like my first Bible study ever, and actually sitting down and reading from the beginning of a book to the end. I know. And it was very jarring to be like, I think John starts out a couple paragraphs in. He's flipping tables in Jerusalem. And you're like,
John
this
is pretty
doesn't
much
happen
just
to the end. What's going on?
John is pretty much just like the last 2 weeks of Jesus' life, 2-3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
But then he goes from flipping tables to doing a bunch of stuff that he did way before that, and you're like, okay, it's just not told. And anytime they reference Judas, he's the betrayer, and you're like, spoiler alert, man.
They don't care, right? They're not trying to build tension. They're just like, here's the facts, guys.
Here's the bad. This is the bad guy right there. Yeah, we're going to tell you up front.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, get ready for it. So good episode.
It didn't feel like any deviation. I felt like, I'll just go ahead and say I felt like the third episode maybe a little bit a little deviation from the norm, but the first one seemed to just kind of flow like the rest. Yeah, to me, and episode 2 as well.
Let's move on to episode 2. I think
episode 2. Jesus and his disciples are taking their Shiva on the road, because I think we mentioned it earlier. I think we were on the road.
I love that they were just kind of sitting there like, what are we doing?
Nobody knew where they were going except for Jesus, of course. Lots of good conversations kind of back and forth. Thomas and Rama ask him to intercede and stand for Rama and to marry them eventually.
It's interesting what he says to him. He's like, no.
He's like, not yet. Like,
not yet. Let's
Yeah.
wait. And I don't know if like there was like a sort of a holy understanding of where her story was going to go, so to speak. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the
I mean,
way-
it's that in and of itself is how much, like, does Jesus know exactly what's going to happen?
limited.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's an interesting theological
fully
debate.
man, fully
Be fully
God.
man, fully God.
Right. Because he does have to pray to God
He
and
prays. He grows in
understanding.
strength and wisdom.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting debate.
Let's go to Caesarea Philippi. Are we there? Is that where we're headed?
Yes, we are. Let's just jump right there. He goes to where a whole bunch of pagan sacrifices are being made, and everybody's covering their nose. And I mean, that makes a funny comment about, see, being kosher is not too bad now, is it?
He said that.
Jesus did. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he did. So that's a real. So, does anybody know about this place? Because it's like an actual, like literally the girl I went to the movie with. She goes, she was just in Israel last year. And she goes, hey, I'm going to show you that. And she pulled up a picture because she goes, we went to Caesarea Philippi, and it was exactly like those houses weren't there anymore, but you could see the alcoves still where the idols sat, and it's like there's like a some kind of perpetual like not like it's the head of the Jordan or something. Yep. But yeah, like it was a temple to Pan, and there was like, what they didn't tell you inside those buildings is like there's prostitutes. There's
I assumed bestiality. That was where my mind went.
There's
they were just like, you don't want to know what's going on in there, or whatever's in there is way worse than what's going on out here. And I was like, yeah.
Which is really interesting. Now I've always heard they went up on top of the rock to say that I'm going to build. Who cares if that's called the gate of hell down below? We're gonna. But I mean, who knows? I like this the way they did it because I'm sure they were like, what are we doing here, Jesus? This is like, I've never been to such a it'd be like Jesus going in the modern day, hey, let's go down to the French Quarter and to the worst whatever,
Urban Street.
Yeah, and to say, hey, guess what, guys? These are the people that are going to be your converts, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But
we big moment for the Catholic on the podcast here.
Peter.
Calling Simon the Rock.
Changing
his name to Peter.
Good. That's good.
The Rock.
I will say
blessed are you, Simon.
A couple
Barjona.
weeks ago, we were at dinner with my brother, and my brother was like, he's like, I don't know, I'm a little worried about this season of The Chosen because the way they cut the trailer made it seem like they maybe weren't gonna be calling Jesus the Rock that he built this church on. And he was so he put that seed of doubt in my head. I'm like, oh no, they've done it, but we're good. We're good. This is a scene that the emotions welled up a little bit. Got the tingles. Just Simon calling him the Christ, and even Jesus telling him, like, God did not reveal this to you. Like, blessed are you.
Or man did not reveal this to you. It was only God.
Flesh
yes.
and blood.
Thank you.
I got you.
Yeah, I've got it open right here. It's chapter 16 of Matthew.
Okay, I was looking for that.
Yeah.
Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah.
Yeah.
For flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it.
And I loved how he's like, well, who do people say I am? And they're like, well, Elijah.
Say Elijah.
John the Baptist, other prophets. And the keys of the kingdom right there, and but that area was called, like, where the water came out is like a cave, and they called it the gates of hell, which is kind of interesting, So he's doing a great word picture,
Yeah.
And a lot of scholars believe that, he goes to Caesarea Philippi. I'd never thought about that as a kid, just reading this, carte blanche or whatever, but it does make a lot of sense that he's showing them, like, here we are in the worst, most pagan part of, Upper Israel, which was kind of pretty pagan. It was pretty, multicultural, I guess, up in that region.
Mm-hmm.
And so so they would have been like really shocked that why is Jesus bringing us here? And then he's like starts this sort of teaching, rabbinical type questioning, and Peter has the right answer. So
well, and you would think, I mean, just because we're hindsight looking and reading the scriptures and what we believe, you would think that he being fully God, fully man, like you were talking about, like people would, and people did stop and listen, but they just carried on and walked
you saw people stop for a minute.
Yeah, there was a few people that stopped and were listening up under the little portico thing or whatever, but like they just kept carrying on, doing all these debaucherous things right there. And I mean, but it just like it says that he wasn't anything special to look at, in Isaiah. Like he's not going to be. They probably just thought he was another crazy street preacher, like most of them did. It kind of struck me as that, and I'm like, man, I guess that too in our lives, and he's speaking to us. We can just kind of carry on with our own lives and ignore it if we want to. So.
Like who's this random Jew up here and what's he saying? And then they just kind of said, oh, well, walk on.
I almost thought maybe that somebody tried to run him off. That was kind of I was wondering about that. But then it went into he started doing that. And I was like, oh, this is okay. Here we go. It's time for Simon to become Peter.
Yeah.
So.
It was funny how everybody kept like having trouble. Peter.
Well, let's just get into that scene too. The campfire scene. I think that was one of my favorite. I can't remember what season it was or what episode it was, but the original campfire scene with
season 2.
It's pretty much them just talking around the campfire and arguing, and it gets heated. And that was, I think, maybe
Jesus
my favorite episode. Yep. And they all like realize what they like. They're like, "Oh man, this was like,
this is petty."
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
None of this matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was happy to kind of see some more of that. And we kind of see the effect on Peter as well. He's secluded himself, and he's like, what does this actually mean? And like, how am I, like, I'm so unworthy of this. Like, how am I going to live up to it?
And I think that's a lot too, where he was so busy processing that when Matthew approaches him the first time, he's just like, oh, dude, I don't, and he kind of, I mean, honestly, he hadn't forgiven him, but he was, but I think also he was so much like thinking, okay, I've got to be the leader now. It's kind of like, which is really interesting because Matthew comes up and he's like, look, Jesus, I just think that's a terrible choice.
I was thinking it was 3, but it's episode 2. That's the part that got me. First of all, Matthew walks to him at the fire, and he comes to sit down. And he said, "If this is a bad time," and he just looks at him and says, "No, I'm listening."
Yeah.
I'm like, isn't that how it is? I mean, I'm like, I can go anytime. To him. I mean, he's listening. And then I believe it's the same.
Had a great
scene.
Conversation there.
Yes.
Such a good,
he looks at
well written.
And it's kind of, he's talking about Peter, but he says, and I felt it in my own life, like he tells Matthew, I make people what they aren't. And
that was solid. Yeah.
Yeah. I teared because I mean,
that's a great line.
I have struggled. I won't say I've struggled, like make myself in this position that I'm in with the church and having this call to ministry. It's, I don't feel worthy or, I mean, because I'm like, who am I? I mean, of all the people that you could have chosen, Matt would have never chose Matt to have done this. And I felt that a little deeper in my soul, like I get it, but it's, I don't know. That's probably more personal to me than other people, but that was the scene that really got me in this one, and it was just these little small
conversations.
Yeah.
And that's this one. I think this journey to forgiveness really hit me, especially when it got to the end when he finally. Well, and I don't want to jump way too far.
No, that's fine.
yeah, when Peter finally said, "Okay, wait a minute," this was something. And to be honest, I want to be honest. All I remember is him finally just like hugging him, like.
And they had a lot of fire scenes because they had Jesus and Matthew, and then them were arguing, and then it comes back a couple nights later. Peter gets out of bed. He's talking to his wife. She goes to sleep. He gets up out of bed, goes out of town to find Jesus.
Yes,
fire, and that's the whole. So I'm to forgive him. He's wronged me seven times.
Forgive
him 77 times, and he's like, "Well, if I really got down to the detail, I could probably count it up to 77."
Yeah.
And I like how he. It doesn't do it in Scripture, but how I've heard it broken down to me over years through sermons and whatever else. Jesus breaks that down. It's like, I'm not talking about that you've got to do it 77 times. I'm talking about that's endless forgiveness.
Right.
But the Jewish mind automatically understood 70 times 7 is an infinity number.
Yeah, it's like 4. Yeah.
So we read it as 70 times 7 or 77 times.
I've got 490 times more to go, and then
that may just be Baptist, Earl. That may just be us.
That's just us that are like counting. Wait a minute now.
I'm only at 358. We're good.
I've got 358 forgivenesses to go, and then I don't have to forgive anybody else. Yeah, Jason, we don't have confessionals, so we just keep records, right? We just nurse hurts. And no, I'm just kidding. No, not really.
You've done quit preaching, Earl, and you got to meddling.
Yeah, that's right. Now, hold on, Pastor. You meddling now.
There was also some good stuff. There was Jesus and Matthew about how forgiveness is only given by the person that you're forgiving. Like, you can apologize, but it's not on them to actually forgive you. Like, they have to make that decision themselves. And so I think from both angles, I think they just played it out so well and just hit those emotional beats how they needed to be hit, and just played them so true.
I agree. I forgot about that point too, because I've had things in my own life where I'm like holding that hard-heartedness, that hate or that anger or whatever in there, and person had not apologized, or maybe even not even known that they had hurt my feelings or whatever else. And I've had a situation where I'm like, the person didn't really know, or I hadn't apologized, and I'm like, you know what? Forgiveness isn't for me, or isn't for them. I will forgive them, and it gets it off of my chest, because I can't bear that. It's then I've given it to God. I've gotten it off my heart. And how did you say he put it? I can't remember.
Something about forgiveness isn't something you take; it's given. Something like that.
Yeah, that was it.
That's it.
I mean, it's true. It's so easy. Like, you just hold on so tight to like whatever grievances that may be, and you don't realize how easy it is to just like let go of your fist because you're holding on so tight.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, this is not the emotional beats, but I did love like how Matthew and then John would both pull their little books out, like or Jesus gave him a look like it's kind of a little nod.
And then when Matthew's talking to
and there's something about the joke about
woman.
And she says, "I'm going to need you to."
Who the heck is the Ethiopian woman's name?
Salome. Is she Salome too, or
no?
Oh my gosh,
she's not Susanna, is she?
No.
If it's one of those, if you say it, I'm like, yep, I'll know. You when I
hear
it,
Tamar.
Yeah, Tamar. Yep. When Matthew and her are talking, she's like, "That's pretty cool. That like that you must feel like pretty special to be the one to like write everything down, like talk to be this to scribe." And she's like, "How do you know what to write down?" He's like, "Well, sometimes Jesus gives me a look," and then Jesus turns around and gives him a look, and Tamar's like, "Oh, is this conversation going to be part of it?" And he's like, "No, that's a different look."
Yeah, that was really funny.
Well, it was funny, you're talking about with him and John, like Jesus gives him the look and he gets the pad out And then
Yeah.
John looks and sees that he's getting
He
the pad out.
goes,
And he's like,
"All
"Oh, I
right,
better get my pad
yeah,
out. I need to be writing." You know.
Yeah, I like that. I like that they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I better record this."
Yes,
one."
well, if he's writing, I'm going to write. Yeah. He's not taking this all down by himself. You know.
That's right. That's funny. And wasn't there something somebody said to Matthew, and he took them literal, like, well, okay, like he said something like, "Well, we'll have to get that in writing or something." And he's like,
Yes, he said, "I did. I've written it down."
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I'm writing it all down. Don't say that too loudly.
The other aspect I like that they're kind of setting up is the John and James or Sons of Thunder, or the Thunder's clapping a little bit in them, and they're like, "Why didn't we get our name changed?"
Oh, the mom is saying like,
and the mom is now in their ears too.
Spoiler alert, that's probably going to be episode 4.
Yep.
Because she's headed out. Well, I'll ask him myself then.
Yeah. And that's in the Bible. That happened, you know.
Yep.
You don't know what you're asking, is what he tells them.
I mean, they're kind of shook by this whole Peter thing. They're like, well, now hold on now. Wait a minute. Okay. No, wait. You know, we should be up in that. Hey, are they going to do the Transfiguration at some point? That's going to be.
I would think so.
I would think
that's
so.
going to be awesome.
I don't know if that's this season or next season, but man, that's a big moment.
It's got to be soon.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought he said they were wanting to do 7 seasons.
That's right.
But 5 and 6, they said the next 2 he goes to Jerusalem. I'm wondering if season 7 may not be the after, maybe with Paul.
That's what I was going to say. I think 7 may be Acts, and I hope it is.
Yeah, maybe the resurrection leading into Acts or something.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say, I mean, just from the promotional stuff, the pictures or whatever, and the slogans, I'm going to say the finale of this season is Lazarus.
Yes,
I think so.
Possibly.
Yeah. Just from, I mean, it seems pretty. I mean, the rise up is the thing, and then they've got a guy laid out.
And so the transfiguration has to happen before that, right? Because he raises Lazarus on his way to Jerusalem.
It's actually pretty close to this confession, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get it in the next couple episodes. I have no idea. I have no idea how they'll film that. You know, that's going to be kind of curious to just. I mean, I hope they don't make it too. Like, I don't need to hear them talking a conversation with. I would rather just be brilliant light, and then
with Moses.
It will. I feel like it'll be.
Elijah, and then
I think they're pretty. I think they're pretty smart when it comes to this stuff. Obviously, because the name of the show is The Chosen, and it's the chosen people
more on Peter
on the disciples. I think it may be them. Yeah, like they're
like looking at a bunch of light, going, "Hey, can we just build an altar and stay here?" And then boom, this is my son. Listen to him. Bam. Okay, let's go back down the hill. And then they're like,
it will be very interesting to see like when the voice of God comes in. Like, which I think, by the way, I think that's probably why we haven't gotten Jesus's baptism, because at Jesus' baptism, the voice of God, behold my son, or whatever it is, specifically.
Yeah, it's George Burns. I guess he's dead though, or we'll have to do. I'm sorry. Yeah,
get Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman could do it. Liam Neeson as Aslan could say hello. I don't know.
James Earl Jones, Mufasa.
Yeah. Oh man, is that guy still? I hope he's still alive. He's still alive.
I think he's retired. He's still alive. He's retired.
Yeah, he's retired.
He's definitely in this. Yeah. And then so anyway, as we know, Matthew approaches him and says, "I want to tell you, you know, I know I did a lot of stuff to you. Can you forgive me?" And he's just walks past him like this. He just doesn't like. And honestly, I thought they had gotten over all that like back in season 2 or 3, because didn't they go out together at one point in the 2x2 thing?
No, they went to find Mary Magdalene.
Oh, that's what it was. I knew there was something where they sort of worked together.
He put them together because he makes mention of it at the end of. So I just finished season 3 literally.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, before I had gotten to a point where I kind of got behind and hadn't watched it in a while, so I finished it up. But he talks about that because he and somebody's discussing it, and he said, "Why do you think I put them two together? They've got things that they need to, to work on, basically."
Yeah. Well, I do like that they pulled it all the way.
Matthew and Simon Z were together.
Oh, that's it.
Because Simon Z did not know that he was a tax collector yet, and so when he announced that pairing, everybody was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Roman sympathizer.
So I know we get some of the Sanhedrin and Pharisee stuff. I don't necessarily remember all of it. I do have a theory about Yusuf has a powerful dad
Yeah.
in Jerusalem. Sounds like his dad's a Pharisee. I think his dad is going to be Joseph of Arimathea.
Well, I think Yusuf is going to be Yusuf of Arimathea. Is that is my thought. I still now you may be right.
Okay.
I don't know.
No,
but
no,
I think
that makes sense.
Snap.
That makes
Yusuf of Arimathea. Yeah, that's why they're kind of keeping him in the loop of the story.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
I've wondered about that, and I've wondered about. Of course, you had Nicodemus in season 1, and then you've kind of had.
I hope he comes back. He does. Come back.
I would love. I would, because he's
actor.
at the. He's there when they pull him off the cross, and he's with Joseph or maybe possibly Yusuf of Arimathea. But
that's a great call, Dr. Earl. I did not put Yusuf and Joseph.
I hope that's right.
I think it's one of the two.
Yeah.
I mean, I've wondered that. He's got connections, and I wondered that. He said his father had a business or something like that.
Yeah.
Because
I think when the cistern broke, that's who they went through. Is his father or his family owns like some sort of company that or business that probably wasn't really a company. I don't think they had LLCs back then.
Yeah. And Shmuel, the Shmuel character.
Shmuel.
I still don't really follow some of the politics of the. Like, I know he's going down there to join the Sanhedrin, but they've
awarded him this position because he basically gave up John the Baptist, is what I kind of gathered from it.
I think it's really interesting that we're going the direction of he's regretting and is now lost. Like he was so sure-footed and was I
kind of forgot what his what encounter did he have with Jesus that kind of shook him up?
It was at the end of
it
was the last episode. Yep.
And Jesus asked him to come and pray with him.
Oh, that's what. Okay. I knew there was something that happened in 3, but
the crowd was clearing out, and they'd gotten word
that
it was happening.
They were looking for witnesses.
That's it. Yep. That's it. Okay.
And he goes and runs into him, and he says, "Oh, Shmuel, why don't you come and pray with me?"
The way Nicodemus said Shmuel was just so great.
Shmuel. like almost like, you schmuck. That's what he kind of treated him in that first season.
Yeah.
And then there's another guy. So I haven't figured out, is that Caiaphas, the main guy that was down in Jerusalem?
The really creepy old dude that came in there.
The old guy, yeah.
The dude that was like,
he was creepy, man.
Yeah.
Because they talk about the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees, and that's why Jesus and John the Baptist and all of them were preaching so hard against them, is because they had just become so dirty, like dirty politics, just dirty. It was all about money, and that's kind of the thing with Shmuel. It's like, did you really receive this honor? And that's the thing with Yusuf. He's like, I can do this. It's not the right way to do it, but we can make it happen. Like I'm wondering if I don't know if his dad's on the Sanhedrin or if he just knows somebody and he's got the money to get him in there. Because it was like, hey, it's a done deal. If all I got to say is, hey, I want to do this, basically he's there and he's going.
Yes.
That's what I took from it. I also think that, of course,
Jairus or
Jairus. I was about to say we haven't really talked about the Romans much.
I was about to bring him up. Quintus, Atticus, and
Gaius.
Atticus has been one of my favorite actors in this show. What he brings to it is just
I like him.
Very interesting because
I like him.
He like the first 3 seasons. He's kind of changed a little bit here in season 4, where seems to be much more against Jesus, but before that he was much more like, this guy's pretty interesting, and like maybe it's because he's just got a better grip on him. But
I have a theory about Atticus.
Okay.
Do you think he's going to be the one at the cross?
Yes, sir. The one that says, truly this was the Son of God. I think he's going to be the one at the cross.
I kind of do too.
I thought that was going to be Gaius.
Yeah.
But as we know now, Gaius is going to be the one that's the centurion servant that gets healed.
I think we'll
see. I think we'll probably see that this season too.
Yes, I do too. They've been building that up for a very long time.
So I didn't understand Gaius's hesitancy to clear out that tent city as much. Like,
I think it's because he believes in Jesus.
It's just I think it's just a mercy thing.
It's like mercy, and I think he's like this Jesus. It's not like a
he's observed them,
but he's like this. There's something different about this one and all of the other ones.
I was trying to remember back. Like, I feel like there was something he observed, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but where he's seen Jesus in wherever it was. That changed him, right? And I know he had that thing in season 3 where him and Peter were like, I don't know, repairing a well.
They were repairing the cistern,
and they had some conversations about, I forget, some of the stuff that
I think it's probably multifold. Where it's the conversations with Peter. I think it's also that he was close with Matthew and has seen a real change in Matthew, and that he saw like a nervous, no confidence Matthew, and now every time he sees him again, he's like, this is a different person. Something has changed in him, and it's this preacher guy that he's following. And I think that has like softened the hearts, to put it in Exodus terms.
I agree.
What do y'all feel about the Quintus? So Quintus, to me, seems to have changed this season. Like,
I feel like this is the first time he's left his desk that we've seen.
Yeah,
which was weird.
Well, since season 1, when he meets Nicodemus on the road, that's episode 1, I think.
Right.
Yep.
Ever since then, he's been in the office.
Yeah.
I see. Well, of course, there's.
I think he's going to be. Well, yeah. Do we want to get all the way to 3 with that, or do we want to? Are we ready to talk about?
We could. 3? Yeah, that's pretty much it for 2, I think. Yeah, let's save Quintus for the end of 3 here.
Okay.
Let's go to the blind man.
So we get the opening prologue is David and Bathsheba.
That's right.
This article says it's from 2 Samuel 12:15 through 23, and it says it's a pretty thorough rendition of it.
It was the same guy that played King David in season 3 as well.
Yes, when
the cold open in that.
Oh, really? Okay.
All right. That was the one where they lose the baby.
Yes.
Listen, as a redhead, I used to be redheaded. That probably is not as clear. I like my David a ruddy. It says he's ruddy complexioned in somewhere. I like a good ginger David, but hey, whatever. We'll go.
And he was a handsome lad. It says something of that nature.
Yeah,
ruddy and good to look upon.
I think. In one of my travels in the Middle East, of course, everybody's like dark skinned, dark complected, but there was one guy that I looked over and he had this like red, crazy hair. And I said, "Oh," and he's like, "Oh," and he looked at me like, cause he was like the only weird guy to have some kind of like redhead gene pop out. So
it's
he was
brotherhood.
Like, we got a picture. We got a picture together. He's some guy in the market selling almonds or something. But anyway.
We can kind of knock out some of this Thomas and Rhema stuff. Thomas gives Rhema a gift. Originally, she said, "I just want like a little piece of fabric from your clothes."
Oh yeah,
that was the funny part. She said she doesn't want anything. Peter's like, "No. Hold up.
Hold on. Come talk. No, Thomas, come on, man. Come on. Let's talk. Yeah. Is that good advice, Is that good advice, married guy?
Absolutely. Yes. If they say they don't want anything, do not. Yeah.
I got take that.
If they say they don't want anything, they want something big.
Yes.
I don't know if it's that, but you better get something. You better get something.
Yeah, I got in big trouble with that one time when in my first relationship. I was like, I'm going to stop and get some food. Do you want? No, I don't want anything. And then I said, okay. And so I come in walking with my own dinner and she's like, so you didn't get me anything? I was like, but you said you didn't want anything. And then, man, she got mad at me. I was like, wow, okay. But I misread something.
It was funny when we were actually in watching the movie, that happened. And he's like, take it from the married guy. And he, Peter pulls him to the side, and our pastor's down there, a guy in front of us said, 2,000 years later, things have not changed. And my pastor's like, amen, brother.
That was awesome.
It was funny.
Anyway, back to the story. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Terrible sidebar.
So I suppose we should just kind of get into this whole woe ye Pharisees stuff and the
He went for the
healing of the
7
blind
woes.
man with the mud. And
Yeah. It's interesting that they tied those two together because there's a little more. They're not necessarily connected or linked, but I think they compressed the story a little bit, which is fine. John says that after he put the mud on his eyes, Jesus told him, go down to the pool of Siloam. And so if you've ever watched the Gospel of John, like movie, there's a really great thing where he's like tapping, making his way down there, which is, I always kind of like, but they just brought some water from the pool or whatever. That's fine. I mean, it's no big deal. It's just, you got to compress it a little bit.
Yeah.
But, and then, of course, I liked how what did y'all think about how they did the thing where like his family comes in? Because if you look in John chapter, I mean, that's all there.
I think it's 9.
Where they do the sort of interrogation, like, who healed, is this your son? And he's like, yes, this is my son, but we don't know.
Wait, I don't know whether he is a sinner. One thing I do know that though I was blind, now I see. I guess that's what he said.
There's a thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You can finish your thought there.
I was going to say that it's kind of hard to read it, but like in the show, I think they do a good job of like the parents are kind of throwing their son not under the bus, but they're like, he's of age, he can answer for himself. Like, we don't want to get in trouble.
They don't
the truth of the situation.
They don't want to get kicked out of the synagogue, so they're.
No, what I was going to say is like he was a man born blind, and according to like the Jewish prophecies and that the Messiah would, I think the 3 miracles that only the Messiah could perform, sure that this is the Messiah, was healing a person born blind, curing a leper, and raising someone from the dead.
Interesting.
He's done the leper. Now the one of course he did many other things. He healed several blind people and lame people and lepers and whatever else. But that was the 3 that the Jews felt like, or it's prophesied. I don't know. You'll forget. I'm not exactly sure, but I've heard it in the talks podcast. Like they said, there were certain ones that they had to have. If it was the Messiah, he will have done this. Person born, and that's when he was born. You asked him, you were
oh man,
blind. I was a little bit shocked by that because it makes a difference. As if like what's her name, Sheila, she said she'd only been blind for 10 years.
Yeah,
so that one was a little bit different situation. It's
to be born blind is
Sorry,
you broke up a little bit.
Okay, sorry. I was going to say what the significance of that is more than just that he healed a blind guy. He did something that the Jews believed would be a sign for the Messiah, is healing someone blind.
And he's doing it very publicly and in front of synagogue officials. And
and on the Sabbath. And he made an eye ointment on the Sabbath. You can't do that, man.
Yeah,
that's work. You just, by spitting and rubbing mud, that's work.
Yep. And we actually just covered some of this type of stuff in our Bible study on Monday night about how the Pharisees are just so letter of the law. And so like, that's just what they're focused on. And so often Jesus comes into the synagogue and heals on the Sabbath in front of the Pharisees and the preachers and whatnot. And sometimes you're like, oh, like just take a little pressure off and like just show up the day before, show up on Friday instead of Saturday. But he's doing it for a reason, to point out like, hey, you guys are not like, yes, you may technically be following it to the like exact letter, but like you've gone too far and you've forgotten the spirit of the law,
justice and mercy and all the things. Matt, you're back. You froze for a minute.
Yeah. It was. I was like, wait a minute. I was about to put in the chat. Like I've lost you guys.
Mississippi internet.
You missed Jacob's pithy statement. He was very good about the Pharisees following the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. And I think that was
right.
We've lost all our commenters. I think they just got tired of all the.
That was
we have, but we've still got the viewers. The viewers are still there.
Hey, viewers!
So we're good.
the one
They're just
thing
silently
about the you talk kind of piggyback on what you said, Jacob, was Shmuel from end of season 1 when he's talking to Nicodemus. I watched that just recently, going back and rewatching, and he says that he said when he's talking, and Nicodemus tells him, "You've not learned anything from me," and he said, "The Lord," which said to me, all out, they've got it all back. That's that Pharisaical thinking.
Yeah.
So should we talk about the big moment here? Just kind of get it out of the way so we don't have to tiptoe around it.
I'm good with that.
Spoiler alert, everybody. The big secret of
this is the big twist.
These 3 episodes.
If you don't want to be spoiled, go to your theater.
Yep.
We encourage you to go watch this.
We'll give you 7 more seconds. 6, 5,
come back and
4,
listen.
3, 2, 1. All right. So Quintus has gotten word from Atticus through Gaius's other guy, has came back to Quintus to tell him that things are happening. They were peaceful at first. All of the Jesus followers were peaceful, but the Pharisees are making a big stink, and there's lots of aggression growing.
Yep.
And something needs to be done. Atticus has told Gaius to go tell him. Gaius is like, I'm not going to be the one to tell him, since his kind of second command guy. Atticus is very confused, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry. In Rome, ambition is not to be disciplined, but if it doesn't work for you, then it will be disciplined." I like kind of some of that stuff. But so finally, Quintus shows up, and
he's angry.
He's very angry, and tells Gaius to arrest Jesus. Gaius says no, which shocked me.
Well, he would have, yeah.
And everybody else said no, right? Or no. They arrested that. That's right. They arrested Gaius.
Gaius
is what happened. So Gaius got arrested, and then for some reason Quintus is going up to the front. Is Quintus going to try to arrest him, or why is he the one going up there? Do we know? Do we remember?
Well,
how does he get pushed to the front all the way up there?
I'm thinking that I mean, he was just trying to. He sent the guys to get up there to get him, but at that time Peter had already got the guys to scope out a way to get out and
get Jesus out of there
and get him out of there. And so they found it. He was just trying to get to him, I believe, to go after him. I think you're right. I'm thinking he's just trying to get in it to try to lock him up.
I didn't love some of this scene because I feel like Romans would have been, they were going to first of all, I think the Pharisees would have gotten the temple. There's temple guards too.
Mm-hmm.
But where are we right now? Are we in Jerusalem? We're in Capernaum, right?
We're in Capernaum.
Okay, so Quintus is kind of like a regional guy up in Capernaum, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have come around. You're right. They may not have had I'm thinking down at the temple they had temple guards. Okay,
yeah.
So maybe it does make more sense.
This is just the synagogue in the town.
The synagogue there, and of course all those people came from the tent city. They're getting a little more riled up because of what Jesus is saying. I still don't know.
The Pharisees' response to what Jesus is saying.
Yeah, I think the whole purpose of this is that Pilate's going to get I think Quintus is going to be gone soon. I think because he didn't manage this well, he's going to get demoted or fired or shipped away to somewhere else. Maybe a lot of people like that character Quintus, which I thought he was really good in the first couple seasons, but I think because he's lost his cool, I did feel like it was kind of a little out of character for him to be that reactive, maybe, but maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure I loved that.
Well, it's he's under pressure because that's what he was saying, with those out there in the tent city or whatever. Yeah. All he had was tax revenue, basically making it look good. And so the rest, since that's kind of hit it, he's just under. It's been stacking up. I think they've kind of hinted at it a little bit in previous seasons.
They could have done a better job of showing
Well, because he kind of almost acted like he was drunk a little bit too, but I didn't like he kind of went out in the streets and he's just like, you there, you there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
probably he may not have, I don't remember, but he just seemed a little too
I agree with you.
reactive.
I agree with you
And
there.
manic.
It seemed, a little bit too.
Like I'm okay with her getting stabbed, but I almost would have rather it had just been some random like guard who just like accidentally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Or a passerby or something. That,
instead of having like Quintus being out there, and you could kind of tell where it was going. I was like, oh, okay, they're going to go that route.
Yeah. So, I guess
like,
we
surely they're
didn't
not
really
gonna...
say it. Thomas is.
Go ahead.
What's her name? Rama.
Rama
is left behind. Kind of got separated from Mary Magdalene. Matthew came back and got Mary. Yeah. Thomas had finally found Rama.
Right.
Quintus saw Thomas and was like, follower of Jesus, stop. Pulled his sword, and as he did, stabbed Rama through the stomach.
Really by accident, because he was trying to get to Thomas, right? And,
yeah. Well, you can tell by the look on his face.
He's like, whoa.
He's in shock. Like he didn't. I don't think there was any intention. Obviously, not to kill her, I suppose, but like almost like when he did it, it's like, oh, well, I've done this. I didn't realize that this would actually happen, and because or at least that's what I got from the actors acting.
No, I think that's right. I don't think he was like intentionally trying to stab Rama necessarily. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, when he realizes he's killed just sort of this person, he's like, "Oh man, this is gonna." You kind of see that realization on Quintus's face that like
I've messed up.
I've messed up here. I'm supposed to be keeping the peace, and then this is what happens. And so, I don't know.
Pretty heavy.
I mean, our theater was just like,
yeah. My jaw doesn't drop literally very often, but I was sitting there.
Well, that was the difference. Yeah. Like it ended there, and the episodes usually end on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
This was a cliffhanger.
More uplifting. Like you may have had issues through the whole thing, but there's always the high note at the end, at least bringing it back up a little bit. But this one's just like that happened. He's begging Jesus to heal her.
Jesus, do something. He's like, I'm sorry.
It's not her time.
It's not her time.
And then boom, cut to credits. And it's just like, and that's where you were talking about earlier, Jacob, like they've not really gotten into the too dramatic stuff. I kind of felt that way with this a little bit. Like to me, it was almost a little too melodramatic.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how it plays out, and if they go.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw. Yeah.
Depending on the way they go, it could work. But yeah, it definitely feels like it either feels like this was the plan the whole time, or the plan the whole time was that Thomas was actually going to get married, and that character was going to continue on. And
sure.
The first thought I had was the gal that plays Rama. I think she's a bigger actress than most of the people in the show. She was in Legends of Tomorrow, I think. In like a semi-leading role, not full lead, but like main supporting cast.
Yasmin Al-Bastami is her name, I think.
Yes.
Yasmin.
And so I didn't know if she like wanted out or something, but typically they've pretty much recasted anybody that like is not able to continue. So I don't think it's that. I think this was the plan the whole time.
Well, I guess
Matt, give your perspective on why they're doing this, and then I'll say what I think.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know.
Doubting Thomas, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at my friend sitting next to me. I was like, he said, his wife was like, he's our associate pastor at the church. His wife was like, wait a minute, I don't remember that being in the Bible. And he's like, it's not. And she's like, well, I didn't think so because I don't remember him talking that. And I was like, nah. And then it hit me. I'm like, I guess it's sowing seeds for doubting Thomas. Because it never says why he doubts.
Right.
But okay, so this is just gonna be straight up biblical talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it never says why he doubts, but it also there's almost a little bit like more like so all of the disciples saw and therefore believed.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas is seemingly asked to just believe. So I think you got to cut Thomas a little bit of doubt, and I think the doubting Thomas moniker has that's not how you say that word. Moniker. Let's flip the M
No.
in the end there. Is maybe overplayed a little bit.
Well,
But yes, they could definitely be going that way. I thought this whole time with Rama, I thought the reason they were going to have Rama be in the show and Thomas be married was that's why Thomas was not with the disciples after the crucifixion because he
that's
was with
interesting.
Rama.
Yeah,
And
that
so
makes
now
sense.
that theory is out the window. So
He missed evening
could be
church.
definitely
His
on.
wife. There used to be a joke in the Baptist church, Jacob, that's like, now you see what happens when you don't go to the evening service? Because that's, Jesus showed it up at the evening or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was a way to say, you should be at night church, at the service at night. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just my thought.
Yeah.
But
no,
I
I mean,
wondered.
that could.
Yeah,
could,
I mean,
because
but
do you think
they've played into the stereotype with
yeah.
he questions more than some of the other ones do.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want is them to. Do you think they'll do something where he raises her? I don't think they'll go that route. Do y'all?
I think it's over.
I hope they don't.
I think it's.
I think it's going to be a lesson in.
Yeah, I think
sometimes God doesn't answer your prayers the way you think He's going to.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting thing, Jacob. There's an interesting thing that Thomas says right when they're about to go to Lazarus. Remember that he delays going to heal Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally he goes, all right, let's go to Jerusalem. And Thomas goes, yeah, let's go with Jesus so we all can die or something. He says something like, it's in chapter 11 of John. He says, but it is something that could be interpreted kind of cynical because he says something like, yeah, we're just going to go to Jerusalem. We might as well all die or something.
Let us also go that we may die with them.
Yes. Let us also go that we may. Now, some people say that's his faith, that he's showing great faith there, that he's willing to go and die with Jesus.
Yeah. That's John 11:16. Thomas called the twin, said to his
by the way, they
disciples,
never mentioned that, but
yeah, they have not. Said to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we may die with him.
Yes. But they could also, you could take that and interpret it like he's so down and depressed that
or the other way, he's like, hey, yeah, let's go die with him.
Well, it could be. I mean, we'll see what they want to do with it.
Either or, I guess.
But I mean, they could make him totally doubting Jesus this whole time. Jesus is he's not even going to heal his friend. He's going to be upset when he heals Lazarus, but then he's going to be like, why didn't you heal my Rama?
Well, I mean, we kind of got some of that type of stuff with Simon Peter last season, right? With the whole baby miscarriage type of stuff, where he's like, you're helping all of these other people and you're letting us like lose the baby. So,
well, and the same thing with little James.
Yeah.
It's like, he hadn't healed him of his situation.
That was a great scene. Yeah,
it was
one of the best.
That's one of them.
Absolutely. And but and it's almost like which I mean, it's not almost
each
like
person is different.
Yeah. Well, and each person is getting their own little moment with Jesus. Obviously, that happened, but in the show, for sure, they're highlighting these certain things that they're dealing with. And I guess this may just be. And it could be as simple as that. I mean, it may just be they use this to, and it may not be the doubting Thomas thing. It could be just like, hey, this is Thomas's, thing that he's going to be burdened by for.
This is Thomas's cross to bear.
Yeah.
He's going to have a journey now. He's got, and to be honest, I didn't think until that scene, I've kind of been like, this guy playing Thomas is not the best of actors.
Mm-hmm.
But
kind
now
of a Matthew Light almost situation. Sometimes.
Well, yeah, he just seemed kind of like, but I mean, all he had to do was play happy. So, but then I think this last episode, when he was grieving, I thought, okay, all right. So this guy's he's gonna step up the game here, I think. So, Anyway, let's see. We talked about that may be all to really unpack.
I think so.
I mean, the woes were good. I thought,
Yeah.
those were all in the Bible.
I wanted
I need
so
to go back
bad.
and watch that.
I wanted to so bad for him to go into because he stopped just short of it. If in Scripture, he just stopped short of the whitewashed tombs.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, you're beautiful in the outside.
Talked about the cup, right?
Yeah, the cup, and that was another. I guess it was episode 2 where Andrew comes into Jesus. Backtracking a little bit, Andrew comes into Jesus. Really funny moment. We all cracked up where he eats the bread and it's stale, and he goes, "Tastes like Elisha's bones."
Oh yeah. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's."
I did forget to mention that is I had to go to the restroom during episode 1 ended, and I was like, please be the intermission now. Please be the intermission now. And then the next episode started. I was like, dang it. So I went and I stood for I saw the whole John breaking the chains thing. And then I came back as
I forgot
Jesus
that
and
part.
Andrew still
talking.
Yeah.
Bam. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because that's right. There was that single shot of him on the hill that they zoomed in on, which was kind of
Jesus' dream type of deal.
I could tell people were like getting fidgety, like,
yeah.
Okay.
I made it to the intermission, thank goodness, but barely.
I had to pee at the intermission as well.
Yeah, all the men.
I did not plan my liquid intake very well.
You got to always, I was glad to hear myself. I was super glad to hear that there was an intermission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they set it very up. Smart. I liked how they did it. Set it up, and it worked well. And I assume that's probably how they're going to do the next
3,
or 3.
Yeah. I was hoping that they would just play the full credits after each episode, so I could sprint, but they did not.
Nasser, they didn't.
Well, anybody have anything else to add? We can kind of wrap up here.
I thought the filming quality of this was, and maybe just because I was seeing it big screen, but it seemed really professional. Like,
yes,
and it seems professional on the small screen too. Mm-hmm. Now, our stupid AMC theater messed up the ratio a little bit because, like, when I was watching the credits, I was like, guys, the credits are off. Y'all, please, this is not, please get to, but anyway, whatever. But you still got, I mean, the story was in the frame, but kind of.
Yeah. I enjoyed seeing it on the big screen. I was kind of wondering how it would, how well it would translate, but I enjoyed it. And we're actually, I mean, I was afraid I would end up having to go see it by myself eventually, but I think we had such a good time that the whole crew that we went, there was like 10 or 11 of us, said, hey, we want to go again in 2 weeks or whatever, so.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so we're planning on hitting it again.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I had something. I don't know what it was.
Oh yeah. What did you think, Jacob?
Oh, the theater. They put the last 2 episodes of season 3 in the theater. They may have done more than that, but that's that. I saw that in the theater.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that was the whole.
I do remember that.
I liked how they did that too.
Yeah,
I was curious. You were talking about the Transfiguration earlier. I was really curious at how they would do the walking on water because I know they're crowdfunded or whatever. They've got a good budget. Obviously, it shows, but just how much budget do they have for that kind of thing? But I really liked how they did that.
Yeah,
and I have faith in what they can do with the Transfiguration. For sure.
I was grateful. I got it in Cheyenne. Our theater here had it. They did not have the season 3 finales. So it was a very good audience that I saw it with. Laughter and quiet when they were supposed to be quiet for these last 3 episodes.
The theater we were in, probably it wasn't a big theater. I mean, of course it's a little Tupelo, Mississippi, but it's so Cinemark at the mall, movies, the 8 screens or whatever they have. But it was not even maybe half full. I was really surprised that it wasn't full. We saw it at 4:30 on a Saturday. So
yeah, ours was pretty full. Like I was surprised how full, but
yeah, ours was too. I mean, I think the front few rows were empty, but besides that, we were pretty dang full. I'm trying to check to see what it is.
They ended up adding a showing that was just initially like 12 and then 4:30, and that was like on the Thursday. Did it come out on the Thursday? Did they drop it on the first?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it was the Thursday. It was the same show. It was 12 and 4:30, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But then they ended up adding a 7 o'clock showing for like
Nice.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. The Thursday opening day, every Showtime, I think there were 3 or 4, were completely sold out for the past like 2 or 3
Nice.
weeks. And then I think over the weekend, I kind of checked all the seats over the weekend, and they all did pretty darn good. So I wonder if the box office numbers for this are out.
Well, it was second for the weekend, but it was not super high. It was like in the 6 or 7 millions or something, maybe. It was below Argyle, of course.
Oh,
was this Argyle weekend? Yeah,
it was.
So I was like
interesting.
18, maybe.
Yeah, I honestly really was surprised that it was not completely full, because I was able to go. Like, I bought mine and my wife's tickets, and then everybody else was like, "Hey, can we?" Because I just bought them through online, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll go back." And I ended up being able to buy the rest of the seats on the row that hadn't even sold out yet. So,
Michael said, "Earl, that is here." Can you put Michael's comment?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Michael said, Earl, that is massive numbers. It did well.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh, he's still hanging out. Hello, Michael.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for.
So Argyle did, looks like the second
18.
through the fourth, did 17.5. And The Chosen did 7.3.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's very good. I guess that's total gross through February 4th. Over the weekend, it did just under 6.
I do wonder if they had not. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's good to see it in a big chunk like that. But if they had made it like maybe 2 episodes, so you're not there for like 3.5 hours, because I think some people go, well, that's a long time. Maybe I'll just watch it when it comes on TV or streaming. And you know what I'm saying? Like it might have even had more showings, more viewings.
Am I correct in thinking that they're not going to drop the season until after the theatrical run?
Correct. That's
okay.
Correct.
See, and that could be too. It could be it too, because I was confused at first. I was thinking that it would release at the same time, like in theaters, the first 3 episodes, and then as well on Angel.
For the purpose of doing this, that would have been very nice. But
it would have.
Yes, I probably would not have gone to the theater.
See, I would have still gone to the theater, but I would have been able to like kind of rewatch some stuff beforehand.
Right. Yeah, well, that would have been me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed going. I like to see something faith-based in the theater that's high quality is wonderful.
It was
like
really
Jesus
good.
Revolution in the theater was a good time.
Yeah.
So was this.
This was This was good.
We will be back in a couple weeks. We don't have an exact date yet because, busy schedules for everybody. That is what happens when you have lives. And eventually, like I said, episodes 4 through 6 will be in theaters February 15th through the 28th. So we'll probably record that similar to this, or that week after it comes out. Give people enough time to have seen it, but also give people enough time maybe that are watching this and haven't seen it to go watch it before before it leaves theaters. Matt, where can people find you? Where can people follow you, listen to you, stalk you, whatever it may be?
I guess I'm on most of the major social medias. I don't really post a whole lot. I'm more of the quiet stalker type, but I got the podcast, Soundtrack of Life music podcast. If you want to check it out, Man Child Movie Night. And mostly, I'm mostly hanging out at my church. So, if you want to come by Ellistown Baptist Church, Blue Springs, Mississippi, swing on by. I'll be there leading worship on Sundays, Wednesdays. But mostly, as far as hanging out social media, I'm in the Deucecast, the Deucecast Movie Show Discord channel. It's where the cool kids hang out.
Heck yeah, that's exactly right. Dr. Earl, what about yourself? You can't be found anywhere.
I'm kind of off the grid. I can't be involved with any. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not an X person. I'm not a Instagram person. So, I guess I also I'm doing a little praise and worship this week. I'm on the frontline singers. So, come down to Discord, baby. Oh, yeah. Hey, Michael, thanks for reminding me. We got a great service for you guys called the Discord. You have to get permission from Michael to join.
He's at the Michael Nip on social medias.
He's at the Michael Nip on social medias. We don't allow psychopaths in, but if you're a normal person, please.
Well, that's just certainly not true. Rhett is in the.
Well, that's right. The voice of an angel. Yes.
All right,
no, but
are you guys going to take us out in song?
Look for the look for that. What is our show called? The
Deucecast Movie Show, available where podcasts can be found.
I kept saying Deucecord in my brain. I was like, that's not right. The Deucecast Movie Show, or the Motion Picture Show, or whatever it is. I'm sure we're out there somewhere. Just
it's available where everything can be found. The most recent episode is reducing the number of nominees for the Best Picture at the Oscars from 10 to 5. People are mad. Michael is in his pretentious Oscars, only pretentious, only fancy movies mood. And he gets in that around the time of the Oscars, and that's all right.
That's all right. He comes to my corner.
He does. We gather sometimes you're like, Michael, there's no way that you could be a Marvel or Star Wars fan. But no, folks, don't let him fool you. He is. Yeah, that's the Deucecast Movie Show. Definitely reach out to the Michael Nip on Twitter, Instagram. I think the deucecast@gmail.com may be the email address to get a Discord invite if you want to be part of that. But before you're part of that, you should listen to the Deucecast.
Absolutely.
Because it's a fantastic podcast. It's what got me into podcasting. It's what got me into movies as well.
And we enjoy when you come on, and Matt too. We've had him on too. So
I enjoy when Matt comes on. I think the Deucecast hosts may be the only ones that enjoy when I come on, but I'll take.
I like it.
No, we love it, man.
Well, thank you. My podcast, the Good Day for a Movie podcast, every Monday, usually at 6 a.m. Mountain Time. Sometimes way later than that because life again. But yeah, that's that one. Roth from Wyoming on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd as well. The end of last year, I was not very active on Letterboxd. Much more active now. But yeah, so trying to get some Oscar movies knocked out. We're getting there. I've got like 3 or 4 left that I feel like I have to see.
Hey, how come Sage and Tate didn't know what a maestro was, or that a conductor leads an orchestra?
They don't know things. They just don't know things.
I was like, guys, a maestro. What are y'all? They're like, is that a Spanish word? I was like, no, it's
maestro. It means teacher in Spanish. I'm like, that's not what it is. It's maestro.
It's maestro.
I'm pretty sure it's Italian.
Yeah,
it means teacher in Spanish.
No, I'm. Look, I love your friends. They're great.
They're something.
I like that lady. What was the girl that was on there?
Lindsay.
She was fun.
Yeah. Lindsay's awesome. I'm going to be seeing Lindsay and Tate tomorrow. We're going to Steamboat together.
Okay. Oh, really? You're going to do some skiing?
They are. I don't ski. I'm not an idiot. I don't go down a mountain at full speed with sticks strapped to my feet.
Man,
what am I, a crazy person?
I'd love to be there.
You're more than invited.
I'm getting old and brittle, though.
I guess I'll plug my church stuff as well. Why Catholic is the name of our group. You can follow us on Instagram at Why Catholic, WY Catholic. Kind of a play on words like why are we Catholic, but also WY is Wyoming.
Gotcha. Okay.
Abbreviation for Wyoming. So
I thought at first you said white Catholic.
No.
That's a little exclusive there, Jacob. Come on.
We meet Monday nights. Every other week is at the cathedral at Hartman Hall, attached to the cathedral. And when we're not there, we are at a different brewery or bar or restaurant in town, spreading the word and showing our faith openly, and drinking beer because we're Catholic and we can do that.
Baptists do it too. They just don't tell anybody.
Yeah. We're open about it. We have wine at mass.
What's the joke about never go fishing with your Baptist friend because he'll drink all your beer? Yeah. Something like that. I don't know.
But yeah, there you go. This was a Catholic and 2 Protestants go to the movies. They will definitely be continuing for the next 5 episodes of The Chosen, 2 more episodes of this, and who knows what the future may hold for this show. This may be like a secret backdoor pilot. I do believe I will be releasing this as a podcast episode as well on the Good Day for a Movie podcast feed to start out. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Peace, guys.
Thank you. See you.
I don't have a fancy exit thing like Michael does, so I'm just going to hit end stream. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, by the way. Michael, Garrison, Andrew hung out for a little while. My mother is watching us at home as well as my girlfriend, so hello to them as well.
Hello. Greetings from Alabama.
Hello.
Ending stream.